Hello again and welcome to another breakout session. This is breakout session number 20. I'm calling this Let's Get Jazzy. We're going to talk about shell chords, 8 shapes that change the world. No exaggeration. A little hyperbole never hurt anybody, especially in a YouTube description. First, as usual, I want to say hi to all the members of the Guitar League out there around the country that might be watching. And I'm hoping that you would subscribe to my channel, hit the little bell, and we'll notify you when the next breakout session comes out. And if you like them, I would appreciate if you push the like button. And comments are always welcome, especially positive ones. So, okay, let's get started. Hopefully you watched the last breakout session, number 19, where we talked about octaves. And we worked on octaves on the E string and the A string. And in between when the A string came about, we learned how to mute that. Hopefully you were practicing the muting of the A string, because that's gonna come in handy with this one. So hopefully you were practicing that. Now we're gonna work on shell chords on those same strings, the 6th and the 5th string, the E and A string, as the roots for these chords. You'll need to know the difference. We're going to concentrate on 6 chords really, it's not 8, because you need to know the difference between the chord name and the function of the chord, because some of those chords can have a duality, if there's such a word, where they are 2 different chords, the exact same thing. So we'll point that out as we go along. I'm not a real jazz guy, but these are real jazz chords played by real jazz guys. For instance, a lot of this kind of stuff is attributed to Freddie Green. Those jazz people who out there would know who that is, but if you don't, he was the guitar player for Count Basie Band for I think like 50 years for the orchestra. And you should check him out. He's got a website. He's passed away, but he's got a website that's freddiegreen.org, and they got all kinds of history about him and the way he played, and a lot of good information. So you want to check that out, freddiegreen.org. These 3 chords that we're going to learn today, for the most part, a major chord is played with 3 notes. It's a root, a 3rd, and a 5th. Well, these chords we're going to do a little differently. We're going to play, for the most part, a root, a 3rd, and a 7th. We're not going to play the 5th, because the 5th is not really a big color note. So the 7th is a big color note, and 3rds are too. So you'll see as we go what I'm talking about here. And you don't have to, you might not be able to see my fingering perfectly, and my fingering may not be perfect, okay? But I'm going to put in the description, you'll have a link to all the materials and all the chord shapes that we're going to talk about today. So let's get right into it here. Let's start on the 5th string, and let's start on C. And obviously all of these things are movable. And this is another reason why you want to learn every note on the fretboard, because you could go to another C and do a similar thing, okay? And we're going to show you 2 different C shapes, one on the A and one on the E string. Okay, but they're all movable if you know where the note is, okay? So, we're going to start on the 5th string, the C note, and we're going to play the C, the E, and the B. So the really proper fingering would be these 3 fingers, and you're only playing those 3 notes as usual. That's a real chord. That's a C7, C major 7. Okay? And the beauty of these these chords is you will be able to see that if you just move one note, you move the 7, you flat the 7, now you got a C dominant 7. If you flatten that one more, you got a C 6. Now, if you flatten the third, you hold the flat 7 and the C. So you got a C, you're gonna do a flat third and a flat 7. See, this is a little tough for my fingering. So this would be a dominant 7, this would be a minor 7. Just by changing one note. I might cheat a little bit and play this part with my pinky, especially on this end of the fretboard where the frets are further apart. And again, you don't have to necessarily see where my fingers are on this. You're going to have the materials on this. Okay, so we had a C major 7, a C dominant 7, a C6, and a C minor 7. Oh, and there's another one right here. If we do this, this is a C minor 6th, or it's a diminished 7th chord. That's what I was talking about when there's two names for one shape. This is one of them. C minor 6 or diminished 7th, C diminished 7th. Same fingering. Okay? So you can use these chords in place of any chords with extensions on them, like if you see like a C9 or something, you just play the C dominant 7 type chord. Okay, so you can play almost any jazz standard using these shapes. Okay, you just forget about all the extensions on them and just play these chords. When you see a C9, and just play a C7 and stuff like that. You see a C minor, add something, just play this C7 with those three fingers. Now, those were the shapes on the 5th string. If we go to the 6th string and we want to do C, okay, you'll have the paperwork. Okay, so these 3 strings here, this is a C here, this would give you a C major 7, starting on the 8th fret, C. Now I've got the grip of the entire normal C major 7 chord, just because it's easier for me. But this note, the C, a muted A string, and these next 2 notes is all you have to play. Okay, so that's a C major 7. A C dominant 7 would just be these 3 strings. Again, you're not playing the A. And I actually have the full, again, I have the full grip just because it's easier for me to play a C dominant 7 that way. Okay. And then we want to play a C minor 7. Like that. And then what else have we got here? Oh, and this is a good one. This is a C minor 6, or more likely a C diminished 7. That's a B. That's a C diminished 7. Okay, so let's see if we can do, see how far we get in harmonizing a scale with those chords. So we've got a C major 7, we got a D minor 7, an E minor 7. Then we got an F major 7. Then we got a G dominant 7. Then we got an A minor. Then we got a B7 diminished. And then we got a C major 7. That'd kind of be the order of it. Okay? So again, you'll have the materials on that. I know that it's hard to see these on this camera, but you'll get the idea when you get the fingering. Also, I wanted to tell you a quick story about jazz. I used to go to a jam, this was years ago, and it was like twice a month we'd go to this jam, and it's pretty much the same guys would show up all the time, and we'd be playing blues progressions, blues jams, we'd do country western songs, maybe a bluegrass song here and there. And one day a guy showed up and he said, let's do a 2-5-1 jazz progression. And everybody looked at this guy like he had two heads. And I don't want that to happen to you, okay? So when I went home, I kind of said, what is that? You know, so I looked, I never heard of that before, but it's like every song in jazz, okay? So now I know how to find a 2-5-1 progression in any key, anytime, anywhere. And I'm going to share that with you real quickly here, okay? So let's say somebody says, let's do a 2-5-1 in C. Well, there's two ways we can find that. It was more than two ways, but I'm going to show you two ways. So if you know how a scale goes, we find our C note, right? So the 2 would be one whole step up, which is now a D. And the 5, you're going to go back. You're going to go up a string and go back right over top of that C, and that's a G. So it would be D, G, C, 2, 5, 1, and it works that way everywhere. But you could also do you could go to the 1 chord, go to the 2 chord, and go down 1, and that's the 5 chord. So you could go 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1, or 2, 5, 1. Okay, so that works anywhere. So here we've got C. Okay, now we're up on the 6th string and we have a C. So the 2 would be D, and the 5 would be 1 below it, which is G. So it'd be 2, 5, 1. So wherever you know, when somebody says, let's play a 2, 5, 1 in G, you can find that. 2, 5, 1 in G would be 2, 5, 1. Okay? And the simplest chords, you can play these chords in more than one position, especially with those shell chords that I just showed you. Okay? But let's just say the simplest way to do this, to do a 2, 5, 1. Plus, you need to know the 2 chord of a 2, 5, 1 is always a minor 7. The 5 chord is always a dominant 7. And the 1 chord is a major 7 in jazz. Okay? So let's say we were going to do a 2, 5, 1 in C. Okay, we know that D, so we come to D. This is a D minor 7. This is a G major 7. These are right on these little things I just showed you. And this is a C major 7. So, and it works this way all the way down. So let's go, this would be like 2, 5, 1 all the way down. Okay, then I wanted to show One other quick thing to jazz up your blues. Okay, we talked about this once before. We talked about diminished 7 chords, and you can go back to, I'll put a link on here to the breakout session that talks about diminished chords, diminishing returns. But just briefly, if you're playing a blues, let's say in G, and we go to the C, you can go to a C sharp diminished 7 to get back to where you're going. So if you get into the D, so whenever you have a 7 or a 9 chord, you can go to 1 step up diminished 7. So in other words, if you have a C9, C7, you can go to a C sharp diminished and back to your root. You can go to like a D to a D sharp, back to your root. And you can do that throughout the whole progression. I hope this was a help to you. I'm going to put the links, as I said, to the materials and also to previous breakout sessions that cover things like the diminished chords and stuff. And hopefully you can put that all together and it'll make some sense to you. So go out there and have a good time, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.